welcome back to the Get Stuck In podcast. We've been off for just a little bit, just a tiny little break. Quite a lot's happened in that time. We've had a certain team win the league after quite a while, which we won't talk about. We've had a bit of a health crisis that's affected football and
Just a tiny,
everything,
just a
just a
tiny
tiny
bit.
little bit. So there's a lot for us to go back and cover. We're going to slightly change the format. It obviously changed a little bit midway through last time with the introduction of player debates, but yeah, it's sort of a natural just chat about what's going on in the world about football, and then we'll try and have a debate at the end of every episode. If you head over to the Twitter account, you can reply to the poll, take part in the poll, and suggest debates for us to do in the future. And I mean, if you wanted, you could even message on Twitter or email in or something if you want to maybe get involved with the show, if you want to come on and give a take. But yeah, we're back. Hopefully, it's going to be regular and last a
Yeah,
bit longer.
hopefully permanently.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, and just people have probably forgotten who we are. I'm Sam, and I'm with Max.
Yeah, I'm Max.
Yeah.
There we go.
So as we said, there's been a very big gap since we last did this. I think our last one was about Xhaka walking off the pitch for Arsenal, which a similar event may have happened again since then, but we moved. So the season so far, it's been a crazy one. What's your take so far on the whole thing? Who do you think? If we'll leave the title race till the end. What do you think about who's been your surprise so far this season? Of many.
My surprise is actually looking a little bit sort of mid-table is West Ham. Um, I had them going down, believe it or not, and I feel like I'm not the only one in that. I've got a friend who's a West Ham fan who had them going down as well. So um, I feel like after scraping by last season, just avoiding relegation. Basically, Michael Antonio single-handedly saved them at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Coming into this season, the whole situation around Grady Diangana moving to West Brom, there was clearly a bit of a cloud around the club, but they seem. I think Moyes has massively turned it around there, improved. I think with David Moyes, people had started to see him as a part of that collection of managers. Maybe moving into that collection of managers, the sort of the fill-ins like Bruce, Pardew, the
Yeah.
ones who come in. So like Allardyce has become that now. But he's proved that he is better than them generally as
Yeah.
manager. He has a bit of nous about him. Yeah. Who's
Yeah.
your surprise?
I mean, it's kind of mental how many options there are for this question. Like, you can literally say Villa, Southampton. I don't even know. Like, maybe Tottenham if you want to put them in there. Arsenal and Chelsea for being poor. I would say, in terms of difference from last year, and admittedly, like I don't particularly follow this team and know a lot about them, but the drop off of Sheffield United is just unbelievable. Like, it's not like last year they just survived. Like if Villa last season for just survived and then had the season Chef are having now, you'd probably be like, yeah, you can sort of see that coming. But it's difficult because they spent quite a lot this summer. I'm not sure if you have seen. I can't remember. I don't think they made too many signings that properly impact their first team, which might be the issue. But they signed two fullbacks from Derby, who I knew quite well just from Football Manager, who I was quite excited to see in the Prem, but they've just been backups. And I don't know, maybe Wilder got found out. I'm not sure. Because, I mean, you see what he did last year. He's clearly an incredible manager
They
and
signed they
very
signed
good at.
Brewster as well, but
Yeah, well, yeah,
he hasn't played Brewster regularly, so
yeah.
like Brewster's hardly started.
I mean, the thing is,
So,
of how much they bought him for, it's just crazy to think. Like, what is he? Had he scored for Liverpool? I don't think
I don't think
men's level. I don't think he had.
I'm not sure he'd actually played any first team minutes in the Prem.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I've talked to people about Nketiah at Arsenal. He probably, with the ability of Liverpool's board to get money for players, Nketiah's what got at least 10 goals at the sort of professional level. Played loads of games. You just sort of know Arsenal would get less for Brewster, and it's like it's unbelievable. It's like Ives, Solanke, all these players So they're brilliant at that, and it's kind of paid dividends at the top. But yeah, Sheffield United, the drop off, they were playing such good football last year, and I do probably think it's a case of people have worked them out. They did have quite a specific way of playing with the sort of, it's like the overlapping centre backs and things like that. But and I also think actually one thing I do think was poor by them was Ramsdale. I just don't think he's the
I
one,
feel
and he
like
was a lot of money as well. He was more than Martinez by about
yeah,
5 million or so. But I mean, he didn't even. I know because I think he was an ex Sheffield United player as well, which almost
this
made it a
is
little
my
bit
thing with
worse.
the Ramsdale stuff. I do think it was a bit of a sort of a nice sort of not a PR move, but something for the fans to feel good about an ex-player coming back.
Yeah,
Um, they took that step, and I don't. Ramsdale wasn't bad. Well, isn't he's not a bad keeper. He wasn't at Bournemouth, but I feel like coming back to the Prem, he clearly hasn't performed
to be
to
fair
the
as
level they
well,
wanted.
both Bournemouth and Sheffield really aren't even the kind of teams down the bottom that do sit in. They're both quite offensive teams,
Yeah, they're
or at least
expensive.
forward thinking. Yeah, so he's probably in one of the harder jobs in the league compared to like I don't know, like West Brom or someone. Like how many times have you seen a goalkeeper, like even like Pickford? Like you see so many goalkeepers down the bottom, even Mignolet, like they look incredible. Begovic as well, and then they go to a bigger club where they're not getting that protection. So yeah, I mean whether he is a poor player is up for debate, but it clearly hasn't worked out how they would have wanted it to. But it's unbelievable to think they haven't won a game yet. Am I right in saying they're still on 1 point? Is it two?
They're on two now.
Two massive points. So I mean, yeah, they would be my surprise. But like I said, there's so many you can pick from, and West Ham are a shout. Thing with West Ham is they did start poorly, didn't they? And then Moyes was out. Moyes had to miss a couple of games,
Yeah, yeah,
and
he had
they
a
just
couple.
turned it around. But yeah, I
Yeah,
mean Bowen as well. If you're talking players, I think Bowen's been incredible.
I love Bowen.
I wouldn't say it's a
I do
surprise because
love
I think
Bowen.
people have seen it coming, but he's a top
Yeah.
player.
No, I rate Bowen extremely highly.
Yeah.
Mm.
Um, we will obviously we're recording this on Friday, and there's been a pretty big transfer development for West Ham, but we'll come back to that in a bit when we touch on the transfer window in more detail. So if we move away from sort of the surprises, we've sort of touched on a couple of teams there. You've got the battle for top four, which again we're probably going to go into more detail later on in the sort of main debate of the pod. So if we go further up, the the big places, the podium places. Right now, it looks like three teams have pulled away, and there's a couple of teams who are sort of challenging those three. You had Tottenham up there earlier on; they've dipped down a little bit. Southampton for a time, I think they went top once or twice, but now you've got Liverpool, the champions, Man City. Well, Man City are actually fifth, aren't they? But games in hand, I think it's fair to say they're in the conversation. And Man United, who suffered a defeat to Man City in the Carabao. Don't know if you saw that game, but where do you see the title going at this point? If you had
Um,
to put money on it,
I'm inclined to say Man City. I never got the early season sort of like City took a while to get going. There's no doubt about that, but they were going to take a while to get going. Um, they had a few new faces up in the forward areas, like Ferran Torres to mesh in. But I never got the rhetoric of City whenever in a title race. I remember a month or two ago, people just writing them off
yeah,
left, right, and centre. Don't write this. You don't write this City team off.
yeah.
They got 199 points in 2 seasons. I mean, are you kidding me? Like
I think it'd
a
be
team
massive.
managed by Pep Guardiola is always in the title race.
Yeah,
There is no question about that. And I'd say they're favourites at the moment. I don't see United being able to put up um, a sustained title challenge. I think they're
yeah.
good, 100%. I think Ollie's deserves praise. Like he gets a lot of stick, especially for how they went out of the Champions League. But he's done excellently within the league this year. I don't think they've lost since mid-November. Well, it's definitely sometime in November. Um,
Lost to Arsenal was their last
so
one.
yeah, I don't see them putting up a challenge for the whole season. I don't think they've got I think they rely too heavily on Bruno
Yeah.
in the forward areas. Basically, when he's out of the team, I remember a while back when they played away at West Ham, they got dominated the first half, and West Ham were all over them, 1-0 up. Should have been 2 or 3, and then Bruno comes on and they wipe the floor with them. So as for Liverpool, I think we've seen a bit of I feel like they look tired at the moment. I think the forward line look very tired. I think that's largely down to Jota being missing. They can't rotate, so they're just having to play game after game like they have done for years. The back line obviously is in disarray because we've got basically got the canteen at the back now, so the canteen workers are playing there. So I mean, I don't. I did have a few weeks ago. If you'd asked me after the Palace game where Liverpool battered them 7-0, I would have been a lot more confident. But seeing the last few games, that team just looks a little bit out of sort, a little bit disjointed, and I'm sure they'll get it back. I think Liverpool and City are the two this year again. And I would throw Spurs in there. They're not far off. Like they're only 4 points off the top.
Yeah.
So they're still in the race. And I think Spurs with Mourinho knows how to win. There's no doubt about that. Whether you like his brand of football or not, I'm more in the camp of if you win, that's good for me. I want my team to be winning. So I'd say those 4 are the main contenders. I don't see Chelsea putting up a fight. They've been, frankly, awful for about 6 games. I'm assuming Arsenal aren't in it. So.
Do you put anyone sort of Southampton, Leicester level as being in it, or do you
the
think
only one at that level
places?
is Leicester. Leicester deserve me. I've probably been a bit unfair on Leicester because they are 3 points above Spurs. I don't know if they've played. They might have played a game more. Yeah, they have played a game more. But yeah, Leicester I would throw in there. That's probably a good shout. They play good football. I don't think they've got the sort of mettle to last a full season. Like we've seen with, I've got the table up here. It was a while back, yeah. So they don't pick up any draws. They've won 10. I think they've done quite well. Done all right recently, but they've won 10, lost 5, drawn 2. So they tend to win or lose basically. They've gone on runs this season where they've lost like 2 or 3 in a row, and then won 2 or 3 in a row. So I just don't see them being consistent enough to put up a fight. But you never know this season because everyone seems to be dropping points left, right, and centre, apart from United at the moment. So and City. So yeah, what do you reckon?
Well, I was just going to say, but before I sort of give my piece on the title race, you mentioned Man United and Tottenham. Did you watch the Man City Cup semi-final?
No, I watched it a bit.
I just thought, obviously, it doesn't particularly matter for the league because it's the cup and it's a slightly different sort of vibe and just how they play and things. But Man City, it felt like it was back to 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Foden is just incredible. I can't believe that he doesn't start. I know they like to rotate, but how he doesn't start every single match is beyond me. But going on to Man United, I think it was the 4th semi-final, wasn't it? That Ollie's now lost, and I think you're right that he gets criticised more than he should. But I just think that's the perfect illustration of what he is at Man U. I think he's come in and built such a solid base, and I didn't even be able to do that. So credit to him for that. But I don't see him ever taking them that extra step in any competition. And then on that note as well, Tottenham obviously beating Brentford, how you said Mourinho wins. How do you see that final going? Do you think Mourinho can get one over Pep, or do you think Man City too strong? You think they'll win it?
Yeah, I have Spurs winning that. I think they're going to do a bit of a job like they did earlier in the season when they won 2-0. Defend it. That game earlier in the season, Spurs, because I thought I still believe they are in the title challenge. Then I was more convinced at that point because it seemed like that early on in the season, it seemed like Liverpool and Spurs, and obviously that's changed now. But they defended so well.
Yeah.
I always say a team like I always say a team. You know what a team defends well when they stay on their feet in the box. They
Yeah.
keep the team out on their feet. They don't go diving. Spurs the whole game just stayed on their feet, stayed in front of their man. No rash challenges. Um, and just made life so hard for City going forward. And City were struggling for goals at that time. Um, and I just think they're going to do a similar job. I think Mourinho knows that. He just knows. I back
See,
Mourinho in that situation.
yeah, I was talking to
Without
someone about this in general, sort of more Man City orientated, and we were saying obviously Tottenham beat Man United as well, didn't they? 6-1. And they are I think they've got a good record against Man City. They knocked out the Champions League a few years ago. They've done well in the league. But this Man City team in the Carabao Cup final is just a different animal. I mean, in the Carabao Cup, but in the final itself, it's like they own the competition. Like everyone jokes about Arsenal in the FA Cup and renaming it the Emirates FA
if they
Cup and
win it
things.
this year,
Isn't it? Is it 3 in a row or 4 in a row?
4 in a row.
That's just. I know
That's
it's.
that equals the record in like consecutively,
Oh really? But yeah, I just think Man
and
City.
it equals the overall record. It'll equal Liverpool's.
Yeah,
Both help Liverpool those stats.
yeah.
Um, so
I
it's
just
pretty incredible.
in that situation, even with Mourinho, I just think as well you got to think if Tottenham get because it's not till April. And I just think if they get to it, especially if they're without Kane or Son for injury, but even if they have them, I just think. And the thing with Man City since that Tottenham game, they're a very different team since then. I know it wasn't too long ago, but when I said did you watch it, I was watching it at the time with my friend, and Ruben Diaz and John Stones have got an incredible relationship at the moment. I was
It's
a
funny,
bit.
isn't it? It's funny how
Uh,
Laporte's not in the team and they're doing quite well now.
well, this is what I was saying. I,
It's,
I don't I don't see how Laporte gets back in at the moment
no, it's
because
incredible.
Ruben Diaz is. Admittedly, I didn't think he was going to be a poor signing, but there's been a lot of signings from Portugal that haven't done it. I mean, Bruno's the key
The
sort of
exception.
exception, but
And
Ruben
Ronaldo.
Diaz, yeah, but Ruben Diaz, he's kind of, I guess it's different because he's a centre half compared to Bruno, but he's gone about it very quietly and he's just steadily improved their defence. Like you say, they had a few wobbles at the start and they almost lacked creativity, which is crazy to say from Man City side. But now, and that this is what's going to sort of go back to the title race. I think that's the thing they have over Liverpool and Man United at the moment is just not through Liverpool's fault because of injuries. Their defense is just so much more settled than Man United's defense. I don't think anyone really trusts them at the moment. I think Lindelof and Maguire, it just doesn't seem to work. Like it seems to work for a few games and then it goes horribly wrong.
Yeah, I've
And
seen.
honestly,
Yeah,
a lot of people like Bailly, don't they? But he's just not reliable with his injuries. And obviously Liverpool are losing probably the two best centre backs in the league, or at least top five. Um, so I just think that can help. And if Man City can get back to that creative play, which I think they're starting to do with Foden, I love Foden so much. I think I was watching that game and he's not even playing like. Well, I mean, is he 20 now? I think he's not even playing like he's at this level. He's playing above the level of most of the other players on the pitch. Um, so I think if Man City can get that creativity back, I think the league's theirs. But I will always say, I agree Man United aren't really in it, but it's just this Liverpool team, even without Van Dijk and Gomez, just and beyond that, Klopp
to
himself.
be honest, I was surprised by how well Liverpool had done. Like since the
Yeah,
injury, like you talk about playing. I mean, qualified top of the Champions League group as well, with
yeah,
basically playing two youth centre backs as a pairing with
yeah.
a defensive midfielder.
Yeah, I mean, Fabinho has stepped
Um,
up so well.
yeah,
He's so versatile and
Fabinho,
just solid. Yeah,
he's recognised, but he's still underrated. Somehow
yeah,
still
yeah,
underrated.
yeah.
Like, yeah,
But yeah. So just to sort of end this thing, I think we're both sort of in agreement then that Man City are probably favourites.
yeah.
But
I've got City as favourites. I had Liverpool favourites start the season, but
yeah,
with everything that's happened, I would say City, then Liverpool, with
Yeah.
United in third.
Before we finish this up, I just sort of had one sort of question or topic about Man City specifically. Obviously Aguero's been out. I think he's nearly back, and Jesus is sort of in and out of injuries. Aguero's getting on as well. I think his contract's up, so he could be leaving in the summer. And Jesus is he's never really nailed down that first spot. And I don't know if you saw, obviously De Bruyne played false nine against Chelsea, and he wasn't quite the false nine against Man United, but it was like sort of that fluid front three. I think Mahrez was kind of the main middleman, but they all rotated around. And I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were talking about how Pep's kind of dabbled with this false nine or midfielder up front at Man City on occasion, mainly due to injuries. But obviously, if you take it back further to Barcelona, it was kind of all he ever did. With I think he obviously had Messi there at times, but it's Messi. But he even did it with Fabregas quite often, and De Bruyne there especially. I wonder if, and I sort of want your opinion on it. Do you think this is almost his most natural system, but or do you think it is just that he would prefer to have a recognised number nine? He maybe just doesn't have access to one because I mean, there's links with Haaland and things like that. But obviously, he was an incredible success at Barca.
I think, obviously, depending on what happens to finish the season, I think a lot we'll find out a lot from the next transfer window in the summer. Who he brings in.
Yeah,
If he brings in a major striker, someone like a Haaland,
yeah,
well, then there's no doubt what he wants
yeah,
to do.
yeah,
But it is interesting you say about the Fabregas stuff because I remember Fabregas was playing like that for Spain as well on
yeah.
occasion during their golden era.
Do you think?
Um,
Do you think it's a waste of De Bruyne, even though he's incredible there? Do you think you're missing out more on what
I
he
don't
can do
think
in the
you are
middle?
because you watch him play in that position. He doesn't just stick there. He's basically got a free roam in that middle of the park um, basically integrate with both the forwards and the midfielders.
Yeah,
Um, so for me, KDB is the best creative player out there. So for me, he works in pretty much any system. Um,
he's not bad at
I,
football.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
yeah, so basically, Man City to win the league, Liverpool could do it, but we'll see. And then I guess yeah, just quickly, Sheffield down. Are you saying Fulham and West Brom or
Yeah, I think the
someone
current
different?
three are going down. I think
Yeah,
it's weird. I don't understand why Brighton are 17th.
yeah,
Like, they create so many chances, they just can't score. Like
yeah.
they shouldn't be
No,
17th.
yeah, they're a
And
good side, Brighton.
they should pick up wins at some point. Like
Yeah,
they've got to. I don't see
yeah,
Fulham. I know to be fair, Fulham actually have 2 games in hand on them, so they could overtake them.
yeah. Fulham
Uh,
have picked up quite a lot, especially from the
yeah.
start of the
So
season.
Fulham are in with a shout at the moment, but
Yeah.
I'd say the current three probably.
So do you think West Brom, Sam Allardyce is finally going to get relegated?
Yeah, I don't think the team's got enough quality
Yeah,
in the squad at all. Um,
yeah,
I think their best player is Sam Johnston. So
yeah,
um, that's not a bad thing to have, but you need more than Sam Johnston to stay up. You can't rely
yeah,
on your keeper pulling off worldies every week. So yeah,
yeah. All right. Well, we did. You mentioned West Ham earlier on, and we mentioned a big transfer that's happened today, which you didn't actually know about before we
I
started recording
completely
this.
missed that.
To be fair, I missed it as well. I saw the tweet this morning and I was baffled. I mean, I'm baffled because it was a bit of a shock, but I'm not sure if it's sort of the worst decision or whatever. We'll go into it now. So obviously, if you haven't seen, this morning, Haller, who did they sign him for about 40, 45?
40 odd million, yeah.
A year ago, I think it was, has left. He's gone to Ajax. I think Ajax is a bit of a surprise as well, but we'll focus on just the fact that he's left West Ham. Obviously, he's filled in for Antonio, who I think everyone kind of is sort of known that Antonio will be the main man when he's fit, but he struggled with his fitness throughout. And even then, I wouldn't even say he is the most consistent. He's a very streaky goal scorer. So, do you think it's sort of nailed on? They're going to bring someone else in, or what? I mean, I guess simpler than that. Why do you think they've let him go? Do you just not think he's the one?
I think smart money is on. Well, the smart thing to do, I reckon, would be. I'm not telling West Ham how to run their club here, but I would, I would, if you're going to bring some, I don't know if they've got who they got actually to back up Antonio now.
Is unless they've got some youngsters, to my knowledge, it's Antonio. And I mean, this is a different position, but I think they've sold Snodgrass to West Brom.
Yeah.
So that you've lost a winger there. There's no Felipe Anderson.
Yeah.
He's still gone.
I assume they must be thinking about bringing someone in. It's got to be, you've got to bring someone in that's cheap, because if Antonio is your main man, don't bring in a £40 million striker.
Yeah.
So I was surprised at the move. I think the more I think about it, the less I am surprised, because obviously he wasn't going to start. They just spent 40 million. Well, they spent 40 million on him last year. The more he doesn't play, the more his value is going to drop. So if you're going to ship him out sooner than later, so I think they've made the right decision. But Ajax is an odd one from Ajax's point of view. I don't know what you think about that, but
it is odd, isn't it, with their sort of profile of obviously like academy players. But I mean, I guess they brought Tadic in. Sort of that was a bit of a surprise at the time, and that's gone really well. But I mean, it's odd for him as well, because I don't think he's that old. I think he's like 25, 26.
Yeah, he's not.
And I mean, I would have assumed he maybe would have wanted to go to one of the perceived top 5 leagues.
Sorry, carry on.
I was going to say, I think he would have gone to one of the sort of major leagues if he could. Not to disrespect the Dutch league, but it doesn't quite have the same sort of esteem, I think, as the Bundesliga, Spanish league. But I mean, to be fair to him, he'll probably do extremely well there, given Ajax's sort of general dominance of that league. So I'm sure he's happy with it. I'm sure he'll bang some goals. I mean, he scored only the other week. He scored an absolute a bicycle kick that was just incredible, and I think he's done it a couple of times. So I think he's definitely got something about him. You can kind of see why they wanted to get him in the first place. There's a lot of money, obviously, but I guess that's just the Premier League now.
Have they really played with a recognised striker for a couple of years? Because when they made that Champions League run, were they not playing Tadic as like a false nine?
Yeah, they tend to play Tadic in that role.
Yeah.
So
that might allow.
They had Huntelaar as well.
Yeah,
but he's getting on.
They still have that Kasper Dolberg.
No, I think he's gone to France. I think he plays for Nice. But I'm not 100% sure. But yeah. I mean, he doesn't exactly, on a very sort of basic stereotypical standpoint, he's a very sort of big man, strong.
He's a hold-up striker.
Yeah, he doesn't really suit the profile. But then again, I guess sort of if he like say, it could be a good hold-up, good one-touch.
Yeah, he doesn't strike me as a player who's part of that sort of pass and move system that Ajax have played the last.
I mean, their manager. I'm sure we'll talk about managers a lot as the series or season continues, but he's a top manager. Is it Erik ten Hag? I think.
Yeah.
The top manager. He's obviously he had that specifically good run a few years ago, but I mean, in terms of getting better as a player, I think there's not many better places to be. So maybe he does well there for a year or two and then moves on. I don't know, but so big move for West Ham. Like you say, it probably was just a case of there's no point of letting his value depreciate anymore.
Yeah.
So moving on. Probably the biggest story I would argue, or just sort of, I mean, it's more of a saga than a story, is Mesut Ozil at Arsenal. Finally looks like it's over. There's a couple of rumours about sort of America and things, but I think now it's sort of looking likely that he's going to Fenerbahce. Apparently he's had a new villa built there, so I'm sure he will enjoy his time there. Should he go there, I'm sure he's going to be earning a lot of money. I'm pretty sure Arsenal are likely to still be paying him for the next 6 months, but I think Arsenal in particular are glad that this one's just finally over and they can move on from it. There's also, I think, Socrates is now going there as well, sort of rumoured to. From a non-Arsenal fan, from a neutral perspective, how do you view, not necessarily the last season, not the reasons he's leaving. Just his career at Arsenal, obviously, kind of changed the way he changed the culture at the club when he joined, because Arsenal never spent any money and then they dropped this money on a Real Madrid German national team creative midfielder. How do you think? What do you think his legacy will be? I guess at Arsenal and in the league, in the Premier League, maybe.
I'd say he. I don't know whether it's true or not, but his legacy to me looks like the one of a flawed protagonist.
Yeah.
From that sense, if we're going to talk about it like that, a player who comes in, impact from the very off, superb for a number of years. I think he had the quickest, wasn't he the quickest to 50 assists in the Prem? And then De Bruyne broke that.
Yeah. But he had that year as well. I think it was the year Leicester won the league where he was at, because De Bruyne got the record last year and he equalled Henry's 20 assists, and he was, I think Ozil was on 16 in December.
Yeah.
Olivier Giroud happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, yeah. That's what I mean. That's how close it could have been though. To if he got 24 assists that year, he's probably looked at completely differently to what he is.
He's obviously there's so much. I'm sure something will come out in a few years about his time at Arsenal, because there's so much we don't know.
Yeah.
Like there's clearly been fallings out.
Yeah.
Falling out with either Arteta or just the club.
Yeah.
People higher up in the club, because he's been an outcast for what, 2 years now?
Yeah.
Basically. I mean, depending on how good he is now, I think we'll find out. Maybe not in the Turkish league, but no offense to Turkish league, but I'll have
if
to
you
see.
If you had to sort of simplify it down, they spent, I think it was 42 million at the time, which is probably more like 60 now in this market, but 42 million at the time, and then obviously the massive contract, which was talked about so much. He's been there for 7 years. Do you think, in just sort of very simplified, sort of yes or no, do you think, or hit or miss, do you think he has, for that cost and the contract and things, do you think what he gave Arsenal was worth it?
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, he ended the trophy drought, didn't he?
Yeah, he ended the trophy drought. Provided a wonderful array of play for you.
Yeah.
As much as it's about winning it, like, and I said that earlier, I'd rather win than play nice football. But playing nice football is fantastic. And he brought the best version of football. And that's what you want.
It's like the goal against Ludogorets.
Ludogorets.
It's just, it is like, as an Arsenal fan, it's such a shame how it's ended. But I think one thing that a lot of people forgot in this last year, when Arsenal obviously had a lot of ups and downs, so many people went to, it's because he's not, he would be the solution. And I think people do forget that he was, his final year before he sort of stopped playing, he wasn't the same player that he was before the contract and when he was scoring that goal. So it is a difficult one, but sort of to summarise it, at his peak, he is one of the best players I think I've seen play like on a consistent basis. Definitely in the time at Arsenal. I mean, him, Santi Cazorla, and I'd probably put Sanchez in there, just stand out as kind of the Emirates era. Obviously, you could include like Van Persie and things, but yeah, I think I definitely wouldn't say he's going to go down as a club legend.
Who would you take, Fabregas or Ozil?
What, in their prime?
Yeah.
They're just both so good. I reckon if you were talking input, if you were talking sort of who's going to get more goals and assists as a whole, and who's probably is just a more effective player, you probably say Fabregas. And I think Fabregas could probably play a little bit deeper and do a few different roles. And obviously, we mentioned he can play that false nine. But if I had one game left to watch football, and I could watch one player have like their prime performance, I'd have Ozil up there, and then it probably would be Messi as number one. I'd probably rewatch the Messi Bayern game on repeat. But yeah, he's an incredible player. It's a shame. I think him going to Turkey has always been an inevitable move. So I guess it's finally been done, and that's going to be interesting to see how Arsenal re-spend all those wages they're going to save. But yeah, so yeah, Haller to Ajax, Ozil finally on his way out. There hasn't really been too much else so far. I don't particularly think this window is going to be
It's going to be a busy one.
groundbreaking.
I think a lot of the big teams are looking to the summer. There's a lot of
Yeah,
players like Upamecano. Obviously,
there's
PSG
a
are
lot of
clearly,
contracts running out
yeah,
this
PSG are
year,
trying
isn't
to
there?
sort contracts for. I don't think Neymar or Mbappe's are running out, but they want to sort new deals for them, so no one
Yeah.
comes into them.
Yeah, well,
But I think,
Mbappe said he's going to leave, didn't he? Start of
yeah,
the year. Be interesting to see what Poch can do
yeah, exactly.
with keeping
Um,
him.
yeah. So, do you want to move on to the big debate?
Yeah, so yeah, like I sort of briefly mentioned, if you can remember, cast your mind back a whole year, we kind of redesigned the podcast a little bit, and we added in, I think we called it the Galacticos or something like that, where we would debate a player. We did Drogba, Eto, we did a couple of
Yeah,
big, big name legends of the game, and then we debated it. We talked about it,
we
put
did.
it to you,
We
put
did
it on.
Edison Allison, and I
Yeah.
remember losing that one. But I wonder what it would. I wonder what the poll would think now.
Yeah, I'll hold my hands up on that one. I would definitely say Allison has gone not even a little bit above him. He's gone well beyond him. But yeah, so we're gonna keep with that theme, but we're just gonna basically widen the debate. It won't. Sometimes it may be about a player, especially if we do things like player of the year. But basically, we're gonna end each podcast with a little debate, and we'll post a poll on Twitter that you guys can get involved in. You can comment your own suggestions for, and like I sort of mentioned, not I guess now that we're doing these on Zoom and we're doing them socially distance, it might be a little bit easier for people to maybe come in, call in for the whole pod or maybe just for this section and give their take. So yeah, get involved on Twitter. I'll leave a link to the Twitter and everything in the description and whatnot. So this week we kind of left it out of the start debate. We're going to talk about the Premier League and top four. And for the purposes of this, we're going to kind of separate it and say that Man United, Liverpool, and Man City, we're going to assume that they're safely first, second, and third, leaving fourth. And we've sort of got it down to about 5 or 6 teams all vying for fourth. So we're going to debate the team that we think are going to get top four or fourth spot and why. And then, yeah, you guys can vote on the poll and say who you think was right or which club. And like we said, there's about 6 teams that could be put in this debate. So if you disagree with us, feel free to let us know your opinion. So do you want to take this one, Max, with your shout?
Um, good old Tottenham Hotspur. Good old Tottenham Hotspur. What to say about them? I mean, people have them in a title race, and I still think they're in and about that sort of conversation, especially with Mourinho at the helm. Um, I think they've got the players now and the squad to go. I think I know who you're going to pick, obviously, but there are other candidates like Everton, um, Chelsea. Although I don't think Chelsea are anywhere close at the moment. Um, you've got, I think, an excellent squad with an excellent manager who knows how to win games. The guy came second with United a couple of years ago, with a team that was, in my opinion, not that great compared to the current United team. Um, he picks up points where we don't even recognise it. Like the Leeds game last weekend where Spurs won 3-0, that's sort of just going to be like a, yeah,
Yeah.
sort of a game that you don't really recognise at the end of the season, but it's just these points that he picks up.
Yeah.
I think when it comes down to it, he will. I don't see anyone else challenging Spurs for that spot at the moment. I think Everton are probably the closest
Yeah.
currently, and I think Leicester are there, 100%. But again, like I said earlier, as to why I wouldn't put them in a title race, they're not consistent enough. And I'm not saying
Yeah.
Spurs are the most consistent team, but they will 100% put a few results together and then not. They won't then go on and lose four in a row. So
Yeah.
um, I'd say Spurs.
Yeah. Before I go into my pick, obviously you know who it is, and you touched on them there. My thing with Tottenham is obviously partially I just don't want them to, but from a footballing perspective and a non-biased perspective, well, hopefully,
Non-biased, yeah.
I my thing is we've talked about it a little bit is good football versus results football, and results football is great. Mourinho's football is great. I have no issue with playing in that kind of style, especially if it does win the league. But I just think there's a lot of games this season that have illustrated the frailties of it. And I just don't think that their football is one. I don't think it makes anywhere near enough of what they have. I think they could. I think they should get top four on their squad, but I think the way he's playing, or Mourinho's playing, is detracting from them. And I think it's because I just think the football is unsustainable. Um, you look at the Wolves game; they were 1-0 up in the second minute, and it was a good goal. It was a deflected goal, but they didn't really earn the goal. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like you were dominating for 50 minutes and then you finally get the breakthrough. It was like you just got this goal that was kind of lucky or whatever you want to call it, and then it was okay. Now we're not going to play football anymore. We're just going to defend, and then it's almost like, especially against a team like Wolves, obviously they were without Jimenez, but you cannot defend a game, or you won't consistently defend a game for 90 minutes without giving away probably 2 or 3 chances, and then it's up to the other team to take them. And obviously, they scored a corner. They had, admittedly, they were unlucky in this one, but they drew at home to Newcastle. They had the West Ham game, which was a bit of a freak. But and I guess you can include the Liverpool game in that as well, conceding a late header. And I think the West Ham game and I think the Newcastle game, they're very creative. And you mentioned Leeds as well. But even Leeds, they could have easily gone 1 or 2 down. Leeds did make opportunities. We know how they play at the moment, and I just think they can dominate teams. They've got the players. Like Højbjerg is, everyone says he's his defensive player. He's great on the ball as well. He could easily dictate a game, and I just think the West Ham game obviously went wrong, which I think says a lot about the mentality. But the first half was incredible. It was one of the best. I hate to admit it, it's one of the best halves of football I've seen. They were playing great stuff. Son and Kane were just doing what they were doing. So yeah, I just think if he changes the way they play, it's not even to say, oh, go out and play like Leeds, go for it 24/7. It's just that I think you can. Sometimes it is the best form of defense is not even to attack, just to have the ball a little bit, apply a little bit of pressure, even if you are just keeping the ball or you're just pressing a bit hard at the pitch. They just sit off so much that even if you're Van Dijk, Gomez, and Alisson, if you sit back that much, you're going to give away 2 or 3 chances a game, I would say, on the whole. And you know what they say about the Prem, if you give away a chance, you're probably going to concede. So I think they should get it. They have the potential to get it, but the way they go about it at the moment, I think it's going to cost them in the long term.
Who are you picking then?
So I'm going to go for, you mentioned them, Leicester, and I take your point about sort of having the staying power to keep with it, and they are inconsistent. But on a very simplified terms, I think one of the reasons they could get it is purely that they were very not unlucky, but they missed out last year by an inch. It was so close, and they've added to their team. They've made their team a lot better. I mean, they've still got Pereira out, which is difficult, but Justin stepped up. They've added Fofana, who looks really solid. Is it Castan, the Belgian
Yeah,
winger? I think they've got a great squad. They've started to build depth because they won the league, obviously, and then it kind of went back to sort of mid-table, and they had a great first team, but it was that depth. And I think now they're adding to it. I mean, like people like Demarai Gray, I think he's leaving in January or the summer. He just cannot get a game. And I think that emphasizes like Demarai Gray is an incredible player. Harvey Barnes is playing incredibly well at the moment, and Schmeichel's a top keeper. But the factor, and I literally saw a quote from him earlier on where he said he wouldn't leave Leicester because when he was at his lowest, or when he was in non-league, they backed him and they stayed by him, and that's Jamie Vardy. And I think he's the way Kane's playing this year has been he's changed his game. So I wouldn't say he's better than, but I definitely say he's level to Kane, and in the past few years, I'd say he's been better than Kane if you're comparing English players. But in terms of in the league, he's top four strikers to me. Like he's doing such a good job, and it's not even just his goals. I don't know if you saw the assist with Madison against Newcastle. He has so much energy,
He's a
so
man
much
who,
pace.
for me,
It's just incredible.
Vardy's a man who is the most efficient striker going. He doesn't
Yeah,
need 5 or 6 chances to get a goal.
yeah.
He needs one. The
Mm.
amount of times you see the stats from a game and he's just had one chance and he's got a goal
Yeah,
is incredible.
yeah.
So I understand that. Yeah,
I agree with you though. That obviously, I mean, Rogers has showed it quite a few times that he can get ahead in a race and then fall short. But I think that squad depth and it's not just the squad depth, it's the quality of the additions. And I don't know when Ricardo Pereira is expected back, but I think he could be a very big improvement. I mean, as well, we talk about Liverpool's ability to sell people and reinvest well. I mean, Leicester have done an incredible job with Maguire and Chilwell. Got huge fees for both of them. Invested, I mean, even Mahrez and Kante, they've invested all of it on the whole very well. And they've got creative. Madison's great. You mentioned Barnes. I just think the squad is great, and I think Tottenham has a better squad. And I think it's in Tottenham's hands. But I think the way Mourinho operates and the way he has with Tottenham, because even with Chelsea, people say he played this way, and he did, especially in the bigger games. But some of his Chelsea teams played incredible football, sort of the Lampard, Sen, Ballack, Drogba teams. They weren't they weren't going 1-0 and sitting in all the time. I think they literally won a couple of games like 8-0 and things like that. So I think, like I said, he doesn't have to completely change the way he plays, but I think he should just be a bit more ambitious, Mourinho. And like I said, I think Tottenham have the squad to do it. I mean, Son and Kane are just on a different planet.
I think you got to trust in Mourinho. He'll get it done.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost a shame for them that the cup isn't till April, because if it was it's only in February, isn't it? And they could have got that under their belts. And I just think that is the worry, not as a Arsenal fan, is that once they get something, what impact will that have? Will Kane change, like everything about the club? You can just see it shifting. So yeah, I'm saying Leicester. You're saying Tottenham.
Playing Spurs, so yeah.
Yeah, it's. I mean, and as we said, there's a lot of teams you can put into this bracket. You've got Everton, Villa are there or thereabouts. Southampton. I think Southampton was the team I was thinking of saying the most. And
Top
then
four.
I think Southampton, they're just. I think honestly, the main reason is just Ralph Hasenhüttl. But obviously, you've got like Danny Ings' injury problems could cost them.
Danny Ings for me. It's
That
just
finish against Liverpool was
he's
amazing.
I'm not even. This might be hyperbole, but he's verging on world class for me. Like, he's so good. He's incredible. Like
No,
I
he's
love him to
incredible.
pieces. Fantastic
Yeah,
footballer.
and I think you've written off, and I'm sort of in agreement with Chelsea, but I don't think they'll turn it around. But they are. I think they're only 3 points off or something. I mean, there's a lot of games in hands, so it all gets a bit confusing. But say they were to sign someone, or they just got Havertz and Werner to click. I don't think we can quite put them out the conversation. But I agree that their trajectory is not the way you want it to go at the moment. But they've got Morecambe next. Havertz gets another hat trick against a lower league team.
They're balling.
The
They're balling.
season turns
Yeah.
around. So yeah, we've been gone a year. A lot has happened in that year, and hopefully, not with the pandemic, but hopefully with football, it continues to be as hectic. And I mean, the games. I feel like the games are just getting more and more sort of crazy and enjoyable.
There was a time in October, like late October, early November, where there was literally a game every day.
Yeah, yeah,
Every week.
and obviously, hopefully, especially the vaccine coming in, fans can get back soon. And I mean, I watched some highlights of games just from last year that had fans, not sort of intentionally, just happened to watch them, and it's such a different feel, even when you're watching it, not there. It's remarkable what a difference it does make.
I know what you
And
mean.
I guess teams like down the bottom maybe more so. I mean, I guess Liverpool benefit from it as well, but you probably will get a difference you'll get a different West Brom when there's a
Yeah.
whole crowd at the Hawthorns. So hopefully that happens by the end of the season.
Yeah.
Hopefully get stuck in his back for good.
Yeah.
We plan for it to be.
Yeah.
Probably be roughly every week, but
Yeah.
no guarantees. But yeah, please do go to the Twitter, share it on there, retweet it on there, and then whatever. We're going to try and upload on Spotify if we can, but if not, it will be on YouTube regardless. So give it some love on YouTube. If we can get up on other places, we'll let you know on Twitter. So thanks for listening to the return of
Thank you very much. We're back. We're finally back.
It's not even been that long. I don't know why people are complaining. But,
Yeah.
obviously, with everything going on, hope everyone's staying safe. Hope everyone's well. And FA Cup this weekend. Hopefully, there's a few upsets for us to talk about. I don't know who Liverpool have, but
So.
hoping they go
Villa.
out.
Yeah.
You're playing Villa's under 12s. I think Arsenal with Newcastle. I think Chelsea Morecambe is one to watch. Chelsea going out. So thank you very much for listening, and hopefully you'll be listening to us next week as well.